So Donette, welcome to the show. Can't thank you enough for coming on.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And news professional out of Silver Spring, so fellow DMVer.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit more about who you are, what you do, what you've been up to.
Okay, so as you said, my name's Donette. I am a recent graduate from Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, but I do live like in the Silver Spring, Rockville area. I currently have my own podcast as well. It's called the Up to No Good podcast that I just started like this month, and I am working on that as well as doing some freelance for some different type of companies while I currently look for my first my first full-time news job in the industry. So that's kind of basically what I do now, honestly.
That's how you're coping with the quarantine. It's just
Yeah, like
podcasts and just
I'm
trying to find something to do, right?
yeah, I'm the type of person like I can't not be busy. Like I have to be doing something at all times, or then I start getting like sad. So I was like, let
Yeah.
me just keep on working, even if I got to make it up myself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I've been doing so far.
Yeah, that's what I chose to do in March because pretty much everything I had on the schedule got postponed or canceled or put on hiatus or whatever the case. And so I started this, and then from this, people started going virtual and remote, and it was just all virtual, live streaming events and all and hybrid, and then people started delving into more hybrid virtual events, and I started getting work because it just kept reworking what I had to
Yeah.
rework, and especially during the quarantine. And somehow the podcast is still going. So I got to jump on your podcast, and maybe you can help me get some more viewers.
Definitely.
I've been doing this for 8 months. I can't seem to get more than 400 subscribers on YouTube. So I'm getting flustered.
That's pretty, I mean, I feel like that's pretty good because right now YouTube is like I feel like it's so oversaturated, like because everyone's either
Okay.
YouTube channel or a podcast right now. So
Yeah.
there's so much people on there that sometimes like even just having like building up your following, I feel like it's a lot harder now than it would have been back then. Because I've heard everyone who has similar problems. It's really just because it's so much people on YouTube now. Like everyone's either trying to be a YouTuber or a podcaster right now. So it's just
Oversaturated.
400. I feel like 400 is pretty good for like, yeah, I feel like 400 for like 8 months. That's pretty good. Kind of people have been doing it for years and they still can't even get past 100. So,
Well, I didn't get 100. I didn't get 100 subscribers until maybe 2017 or 2018. I think this podcast helped build viewership and uh, subscriptions and viewership. But
yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I'm sure this helped, and there's a couple other projects that we started doing, and that might have helped too. But it's sometimes good ideas come too little, too late, and it's like I should have done this 10 years ago, and people might have been into it then, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm like, dang, maybe I should have started this like a while ago. But I feel like everything comes at its time when it's supposed to come. So I try not to. I feel like sometimes I just try not to worry about too much about, or is this much people listening, or is that much? Because I feel like when I worry about that more, I start feeling a little more like depressed. Like, dang, I'm not even getting that much listeners or subscribers. But when I just think of it as a way to hone my craft, I guess, than just
Mhm.
as a way to keep getting better. I feel like that makes it easier to deal with.
Yeah.
I think it's just everything comes at its own time, honestly. That's the motto I've been going with right now to make myself feel better during this quarantine. Just everything comes at its own time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, everything started falling through. So I wanted to like start this podcast. I started knocking out a bunch of editing of projects that were in the can. And then it just seemed like I've never been busier now with paid industrial corporate live streaming seminars, webinars, these conferences that used to be at a hotel or at a convention center or something. And now they're doing it all virtually. And then things that I want to focus on, like build of my own thing, this podcast or some other web series that I'm trying to find a production hack, a quarantine production hack to do, and there's always some wrench thrown into the gears. And like I keep trying to remind myself exactly what you said. You know, like if things are meant to be, they'll come together. If things are meant to be, you know, they'll work. They for the most part, they'll work themselves out. Don't give up and keep working and pushing forward to, you know, get this thing shot or produced or written. But it just like, you know, past couple of months, there's always been something personal or professional, you know, kind of like blocking something else that I wanted to do. And it's just like, all right, let's just work around it. Let's work around it.
Yeah, 'cause I know, like for me, like even like because as a fresh grad, you know, like in the journalism industry, it's already hard enough like before quarantine to get a job, but then like I had to finish my senior year of college through the quarantine, which I feel like was very hard because I was doing my senior project at the time. I was also doing a remote internship at the time, which was also very difficult. And since the quarantine was happening, there was a lot of like people that were getting sick around me or who were dying around me throughout this entire quarantine. So it was hard because I was just sitting there like, well, you know, I don't know what I'm supposed to do because I'm kind of like a planner in the sense, like I can go with the flow, but I'm also a planner. So I had already, I guess, planned how this year was gonna go. I was so excited, you know. I was like, you know,
Yeah.
it's 2020. I'm graduating, my first job. Everything's coming together. A new chapter of my life. Like I was supposed to go on trips, you know, do all this type of stuff. I had 3 or 4 trips I canceled. I've had friends, family members, or like community members who have passed, and it was just getting so hard. Cause I was just like, well, how am I supposed to keep applying for jobs and doing all that when I can barely keep a hold of what's going on in my personal life? Because I'm in school, but like I'm also at funerals, like virtual funerals. Like, you know, like that's the weirdest experience I've ever seen in my entire life. Like virtual funerals or virtual events that like stuff that you normally wouldn't you take for granted, like being around people, like having that emotional support that you usually take for granted. I guess it really hit me how like I used to think I was an introvert, but I don't think I'm that much of it. And I realized I really overestimated how much of an introvert I really am because I like being around people. So it was very hard, but I think what really has helped me has helped me is just like taking me days and just reminding myself like it's going to get better at some point because this can't last forever. And eventually, even if this does go on for a longer time, we're gonna adapt.
Yeah.
So I just keep trying to remind myself that because when sometimes it just like 2020 has just been the worst, honestly. I feel like that's the best way I would say. I'm happy this year's ending, honestly.
Good. Yeah, there was great news in November, and there's going to be great news in January. And so but absolutely, absolutely. And like you said, this kind of pandemic, I mean, most of the smart people, most of the reasonable people, you know, were cautious and did what they had to do to stay safe and stay healthy. And this thing just, of course, it's not going to last forever. Nothing lasts forever. And I mean, another great news is that, you know, the vaccine's coming out and I've been back on set. So, I mean, even me, you know, if you could go back 20 episodes of my podcast and I said, I'm not going to be back on set till there's a vaccine, but then there was a set close by, safe. I knew very well that it was COVID compliant. It was safe and it was, handled well. And I've been back on set doing a little bit of acting and, but like you said, nothing lasts forever. And now we got this vaccine coming out, but, I'm sorry to hear, you know, about the loss you've experienced. And, you know, it's those trials and tribulations that make our generation, the next generation, tougher and stronger and smarter and more prepared.
Yeah.
I mean, this will be remembered for a while. I'm sure 20 freaking 20 that's gonna be a t-shirt for quite some time.
That's gonna go down in infamy.
Yeah. It's gonna be a meme. It's gonna be
no, for real.
It's gonna be a t-shirt. It's gonna be a freaking banner I think all the 20 dates, all the 20 years for like every New Year's is going to be, at least it's not 2020. You know, when it turns into 2027, well, at least it's not 2020. And that's probably going to be the nonstop ongoing joke for the next
2020.
9 New Years or so. And so when it finally turns 2030, it's like, well, at least it's not 2020, right? So what got you in the news? What drove you into getting in the news?
To getting into, I guess when I was in high school, originally, I guess I never really had an idea of what I wanted to do. I had like this vague idea of being like an actor or something, like a very vague idea. So like in my my high school, the way like at the time it kind of divided like us into different, I want to say like academies, I guess. So if you were somebody who wanted to be an actor, or you want to go into the fine arts academy, and you would take classes that were slightly more tailored towards that, like your and if you were like in the journalism one, then you would take journalism, and the nursing, and it was just, we were all different, divided. And originally I was in the fine arts, but then I realized that I can't act. So then I signed up. I think it was kind of like an accident, honestly, because I signed up for my classes late, and the only class we left was a journalism class. So I was just like, okay, I guess I'll take it. I mean, it's not like I really care. I mean, it's like it was like not like it was that serious to me. So I got into the class, and my journalism teacher at the time, she just came up to me and she was just like, well, what do you want to do with your life? So I was like, one day, if I want to be in the journalism industry, I'm not really sure, but like I just really took this class just to take it. And she was like, okay, well, I want to teach you what you need to know. So then throughout that rest of the year, she taught me how to edit videos. She taught me how to write scripts, how to plan like TV, all that. And then I guess that everything changed. That's when I realized that really working in TV production and editing video and so everything, like I realized that I really like that. But I didn't really like being on air though, because I'm not really an on air person. But I realized that I love being behind the scenes. So then when I got to my senior year, for my senior internship, I became the head producer for our morning show. And the morning show was honestly at the time, it was just us. It was really like weak at the time. Like it was, no one had taken it seriously until up to at that moment. So it was just in the morning saying the Pledge of Allegiance and then a few of the morning announcements. It was like a 5-minute show. But then when I took over, I was like, well, I want to see if we can actually make this something that's actually cool, because the whole school watches it. So I want to actually make this into something that's cool. So with the help with my class/crew and everything, we managed to revamp our show from just the boring morning announcements to like a super popular Friday show that like everybody watched, and it was like 30 minutes long, and like classes literally, like I guess in the first, like our homeroom class, everyone would watch it. Like it became a ritual that year. Like it was very popular, and our head anchors for the morning show became very popular as a result. So it became a very like big thing. And I guess when I realized how popular it was and how everybody kept coming up to me saying, well, you really changed it and it's really awesome, I realized that this is like, I kind of feel like I want to continue doing stuff like this. So when I got to college, I continued into the journalism industry. I mean, at first, I guess I had a couple of doubts because, like, a lot of people were just saying, journalism, that's not really a well paying industry. That's not really an industry that's easy to get jobs. It'd be better if you tried to be like a lawyer or like a doctor, an engineer, something like that. And, actually, I almost changed to going to be a lawyer. And I was going to do a minor in journalism because everyone kept telling me that. And I kept getting scared because I mean, like, when everyone's telling you something, you start thinking about it a little too hard and it's like, am I really gonna get a job? Like, I don't know. But then I realized that, I mean, I do enjoy law. I'm not gonna act like I don't, but I realized that's not what I'm passionate about, So I ended up switching last second my major and going back into journalism, and I guess that's where I've been ever since. Like, I feel like one thing is that journalism, I've known ever since that time during my sophomore year in high school that journalism is what I'm meant to do. Like, I've considered other jobs, but I feel like I can't get into it as much as I get into journalism, because journalism doesn't even feel like a job to me. Like, it just feels like, to me, this feels like a way of life at this point. So like, I've completely immersed myself into a journalist mindset. So even if I wanted to get out of it, I couldn't, because at this point, it's like what I've embedded into myself at this point.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much had to just invest my entire self into filmmaking. And I mean, I got into acting because I needed to fill the calendar with work. I have a military background. And so those were the roles that I applied for, you know, military or law enforcement roles, acting wise. And but it's always been like film, been audio, video, film and TV, whether it's in front of the camera or behind the camera. And I just had to like completely invest myself into that. I've had you know, a number of career changes, but it was always within film and TV. And I think in 2010 I went full-time freelance. I left a full-time, you know, 9 to 5 position to go completely full-time freelance, work on films, TV sets, you know, everything in between. And I had family members like, I don't get it. I'm like, then you're not going to get it. I was like, well, you know, I don't agree with it. And I'm like, I don't care what you agree with.
Yeah.
And, you know, you would get attitude, you get flack for it. And I'm like, I really don't care what you think, because, and that was even a motivator. Their distrust and their disbelief and their non-faith in me was a extra motivator than someone cheering me on. It was like those that didn't have faith in me. I was like, okay, I'm gonna prove them wrong. And I did eventually, you know, got into stuff that was on TV, got into stuff that was in the theater, made stuff that was on TV or in the theater, you know, and, or online or YouTube. But, you know, it's like, hey, here it is. I've done it. And so, yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more to just, you know, stick to your guns. You know, one day you wake up and you realize this is what I was meant to do, and you just do it and you stick to it.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's you
Yeah,
like
because
yeah.
Yeah, because I know, like, for me, I grew up, because like I have a Haitian, like my family, they're Haitian, and I grew up in a Haitian community. I go to a Haitian church. Like, everybody around me is basically Haitian, and to them, like, you know, they grew up with that mindset that if you're not doing these three jobs, like doctor, lawyer, engineer, then you're basically doing it. You're not doing a job that makes sense. So it took like a lot of people would say crazy stuff to me, like, you know, that's not a real job. You're not going to be successful in this. And one thing I just hate when like, I always been the type of person, like, I just hate when other people tell me what I can and cannot do. Like, if I didn't even want to do it before you say I couldn't do it, maybe want to do it even more. Like, I was the type of person, like, if you say don't touch this, now I want to touch it even more because you just told me not to. So to me, when they did that, I guess that became a motivator. Well, now I can't, because if I fail now, it's just gonna prove all these people right that you know, this wasn't, and the same people that were, you know, criticizing me and saying that this doesn't make sense, they're the main people that when they see like all the stuff that I've done, because like throughout my college career, I interned with CBS News, I interned with the Wall Street Journal, I've worked with all these major companies, met major people, been to different, like I went to Germany, I went to Miami, I went to New York, I've met different like, huge people. This is all through journalism while maintaining like really high grades and just being like very successful in like my journalism school career. And not all these same people are just like, wow, you know, like we always knew you could do it. But it's funny because they were the same people saying that I couldn't do it. But this makes me feel good because like I know in my gut that this is what I was supposed to do. And you know, sometimes just no matter how much you try to turn away, you just know that at the end, you're going to end up coming back to this. So I just stuck with my guns, and I mean, I'm really happy with how I turned out, because I feel like if I had done anything else, I don't think I would have really been that happy with it, honestly.
And
So
that's a
I'm really happy I stuck with journalism.
that's a rarity, and that's something outstanding that very few people get, where they actually self-reflect. And it's not being a braggart, it's not being pompous or cocky, it's just like, I'm really proud and happy where I end up, what I've done,
Yeah.
how I have progressed, like, and like that, having that self-realization, it's rare, but it's fantastic, so that's amazing. So how what's next, on the agenda? With the exception of spam calls like every 30 minutes, what's next on the agenda? What's the next set of goals next on the agenda? What's the grand plan for Donette, say the next 6 months to a year?
You see, I don't really know anymore, because originally my plan was to get a job, and then maybe like work in journalism for a little bit, then get my master's in politics, because like I I feel like I really enjoy political journalism the most. So I was hoping to get my degree, a master's in political journalism. So either at one point I could like specify more, like become like a correspondent or something like that, or just go more into politics. Like that's kind of been my end goals. But I feel like with the pandemic, it has made it a lot. It kind of threw a lot of plans that I had up in the air. So I guess now one of my plans is, my main goal is to get some time working in the industry before getting my master's. 'Cause originally the goal was just to maybe work for like a year or two and then go into my master's. But now I'm thinking I want to a little just be more in it. I'm not really sure where. I think I'm honestly open to working anywhere. Honestly, just 'cause originally I just want to stay in the area a little bit, but I realized that I don't want to anymore, and I kind of just want to be able to go wherever. And as an entry level person, I feel like it's not good to be too picky on where you go, because it's
True.
better like I mean like since it's so hard to get a job, I want to be able to take one where I can, especially if it's another part of the country, because I feel like that would be amazing. But I guess my main goal is just to like beef up, like for the next year, just to beef up my resume with jobs or projects that I feel I can really be proud of, and then eventually start getting ready to do my master's, maybe like within the next 5 years, because I want to do my master's abroad. So I don't want to do it in the US, because one, it's way more expensive here. And two, I just think that I want to get that experience doing like being abroad, working abroad, because I want to eventually move out the US. Like I don't want to work here or live here long term, if that makes sense. Like eventually I want to
Oh
move.
yeah.
So that's why I want to do my master's abroad. So I think that if I go abroad and do it there, it'd be easier to make up networking and connections. That would make it easier for me to move there. But even if I didn't do abroad, I would still end up moving. It just, at this point,
What's
that was just like a way to make it easier.
but what's abroad to you? Like a different state or a different country?
Um, no, like a different country. Like
Mm.
I've had like these big ideas. I kind of want to move to Europe. I've always very much enjoyed Europe. I think I did like when I was in elementary school to middle school, I was in a French immersion program. So in that French immersion program, we only spoke French, like in our classes to each other, to our teachers. So from kindergarten all the way up to eighth grade, I literally just did French. And then we went to France for 10 days and everything. And then when I was in college, I did study abroad over the summer in Germany. And I realized that I kind of enjoy, like maybe I don't know if I was just there for too little of a time, but when I've seen and when I've done research on, I kind of enjoy just the European way of life more than I do the US style of life. Like I think that the way they handle people that are working, the way they handle like healthcare, all that is just a lot better and conducive to living a balanced life. And also, like if I want to raise a family, I feel like it would make more sense to raise it over there. Because I mean, the US is great, and obviously I was born and raised here, so like I like it here, but at the same time, I think I kind of don't like it here. So like I just so I think I just want to get that experience traveling, or even like I was maybe thinking of going to Japan,
Japan's high on my list.
maybe because I've always admired Japan.
Yeah, Japan's high on my list just to visit at least, or like
Yeah, at least a visit.
a long vacation. Like I really want to like explore Japan. Rural, urban, suburban, and all that. Yeah, at least I want to get at least like a full
I think
month.
Yes, a month. Yes, I really want to. Like one of my dreams is that I want to step foot in at least every single country in the world, or at least as much countries as possible before I die. And so far, I think I've only been to Germany, France, Italy, Turkey. I guess Turkey didn't really count because that was more like me flying through Turkey to get somewhere else. Like traveling, I really enjoy being like in different countries, and I think that like we have so much to offer. It's just to be able to. So I want to get my like me getting my master's, that could help me get my foot in the door in like international journalism.
So international journalism.
But now with the pandemic and like traveling is very weird now.
But I'm sorry to cut you off. But
wait, what were you saying?
I think there's a delay in our Zoom call, but you were saying, with international journalism, so you as an American would be on the production side or the journalism side? Would you be just to go into more depth, like what you're looking to do? Would you be an American journalist over there, or more like on the production side? If that makes sense.
I think, yeah, except if I were to go abroad, I would want to either working, like, because I had like several options. Either I would work in an American company that has a bureau abroad. So like, how like CNN and like all those big ones, they have like London bureaus, or they have bureaus in different parts of Europe. So I was thinking of either going through there, because I've talked to people who've gone that route, and they said it was like a pretty good way to still be immersed in kind of like the American stuff that you wanted to be in, but at the same time, or I would want to work for like a publication from that country. So like if I were to go to France, like I would want to work for either their one of their TV stations, or one of their newspapers or something like that. And then I guess my third option was to have my own brand, have my own like website, blog, podcast, pay or whatever, produce content from there. And then I guess like my last option was I had to study like international. I would be over there, maybe work for like an NGO or a think tank, and then be able to come back to the US one day, or even to stay where I am and become like a correspondent from there. Because even though I don't like being on air, I think I would enjoy being a correspondent, just not like a reporter. So I think I would be able. So those are kind of like the options I've been kind of considering, but I feel like I try not to plan it out too much. I feel like when I have set ideas, then it makes it harder to find what I want. So I feel like at this point I've just been going with these vague ideas of what I know. It's like I know I want to go abroad. I know I want to work in journalism, or even if it's not journalism, like you know how companies, even though it's not strictly journalism. They have like the digital side of things, or the social media releases and everything like that. So I'm pretty open to that, honestly. Just at this point, I'm really just trying to see what happens. So
Mhm.
I'm going with the flow. If this works out, okay, then I would do that. I try not to have too many deep plans. Like I have plans, but I try not to have them too deeply formed. So then I don't either disappoint myself or make it harder for me to find something that I'm trying to find because I'm limiting myself.
Right.
So
No, I get that. Yeah, absolutely. I get that. So when you hear the new normal, what comes to mind when you hear the phrase the new normal?
I think like in the normal, the first thing I think is social distancing and being aware of people like around me, way more aware than I used to be. Like back like before the pandemic, I could be walking in a crowded area or space and bump into people or see people that are standing kind of close. Like it wouldn't really bother me. Like, okay, hey everyone, hugs, kisses. Like, Haitian people, the way they greet each other is like kisses and everything,
Hmm.
hugs. We're very touchy people. So, before that, I didn't really care about that. But now I feel like every time people get even too close to me, I get nervous. Like, hey, back up. You're a little too close. Like,
Right.
I feel like I started low key measuring the distance, or, or this person's mask is not on hard enough. I'm gonna call these like their mask is not on enough, or
Nose and mouth. Nose and
why are
mouth.
all these people in this place? Like, yeah, nose and mouth. Like, are you guys all standing there without a mask? Oh no! I just feel uncomfortable when people get around me now. Cause I just like, you guys have you guys have COVID and everything like that. Like, I don't like people being near me.
I
Like, I
think,
don't like that anymore. I
and I
don't even strangers, people I do know.
yeah, I think even with
Yeah,
after the vaccine comes out, everybody's taking the vaccine, and we're going to see people without masks on, and more things are going to click inside of our head now, and then we see people with no masks standing close. We're a year, let's say we're a year or two even past that vaccine. We're still going to be like,
ugh,
you guys are a bit, you're a bit too close to me. You don't have a mask on. That's all going to kind of like be these quick snaps inside that brain that we think about, and then we have to remind
yeah. Like,
ourselves, well, we all have a vaccine. It's kind of okay now, but still, maybe you are still a little too close to me right now.
it's a little too close. Like you sticker on the floor is that way, and you are past the sticker. I'm going to need you to back up, and it just I feel like it sucks because I I always was like I feel like I'm a young person. Like we like go out, have fun, become a very big thing for me. Or I like to spend time with my friends, go out like we used to do, like bar hopping in DC or stuff like that. And it would never be an issue. But now, even like the smallest, like, hey, let's just go grab a bite, that takes out a lot of planning now because of COVID and the restrictions. Most restaurants, you can't really go there without a reservation anymore. And even just going out, I feel guilty. Like I feel like I don't want anyone to know I'm going out because
Hmm.
you can just feel the judgment. And I kind of understand why they're being judgmental too, because like there's a pandemic, but I think it's on at the same time. Like I don't know if this is just like a controversial idea, but I just feel like it's very unrealistic to expect people to be stuck inside their houses 24/7.
Yeah, that's
Because
a tough one.
I think, I mean, like, we can do it, but I'm like, at what cost though? Because like for me, the time where like in the beginning of the pandemic where we couldn't leave the house at all except to go to grocery shopping, I thought I was losing my mind. And I know people who literally were feeling the same way. People that were really going through it, like depression, anxiety, mental health issues were just going through the roof because like being lonely like that, even if you're when you're with your family, like not being able to see or talk or touch people, that's just really hard to do.
Hmm.
And a lot of people are just like, well, it's a pandemic, and it is, and I understand the severity of it, and I'm not taking that lightly at all. I've seen the effects and consequences of not taking it seriously, so I try to take it seriously as much as possible. But then when I see like these restaurants that are closing down, stores, these small under all the pressure, it makes me sad because I'm just like, I don't know. It just makes me. I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, I just can't. I feel like even if I just go outside and talk to my friends and we all just like go on a picnic and we're social distancing like in a park or something, I have to be able to at least talk to people, see people, because I feel like human nature, we're not built to be sequestered like that for that long of a time. We're
Right.
not built for that. Like, that's not in our nature. And even the most introverted person will say that you still need to interact with some people. You can be like the most introverted person ever, but you still need that human interaction at some point. So
Yeah.
I
Even with
guess the
family.
new,
I mean,
yeah,
even
like
with family,
families.
and the fact that we're even cut off from family and loved ones.
Yeah, it's just hard because these are people who I used to be able to see all the time, and now, like earlier, I think it was like earlier this year, I had a friend who, like, there was like this death in our community, and it was sad because this was beginning in the pandemic, and this was somebody we all grew up with. We knew this man, and we couldn't even go to this person's funeral. Like, we all had to watch it from YouTube,
Hmm.
and just seeing his family sit there and mourn all by themselves. No one can go visit them. No one can go see them, and they had to mourn alone like that. Like, to me, it's like, it's just crazy because especially in those type of moments where you really need people the most, you can't be around people. And
Yeah.
you have to do all that alone, and it's just so devastating to me. So I feel like just the new normal is just. I just feel like it's just sad. Like, it's just really sad. Like, I'm really trying. Like, we're everyone trying to adapt. I think that we're adapting pretty well considering. I mean, I feel like there's stuff that could be done better, but I think overall we're adapting. But at the same time, I think what, like, not even getting political, but like what the left and the right don't understand. Like, to them, this is just who can gain the most power off of this. Like, that's how I see it. This is
Hmm.
just the right and the left seeing who can get more power over, like, through this COVID pandemic. Trump's trying to use the vaccine as a way to make himself look better. The Democrats are trying to use, that as a way to get back. Like, there's a lot of back and forth. But I think that both sides, like, I feel like if both sides just sat down and really sat there, like, I feel like they both have good points on each side when it comes
Yeah.
to pandemic. That everyone's so stuck and being on side that they're not listening. Because, like, with the Democrats, yes, stay at home, everything that needs to be done. But at the same time, with the Republicans, like, I feel like I don't agree with everything what they're saying, but some of the stuff they're saying are correct. That businesses are failing, people can't realistically live like this for long terms of time. So I just think everyone, like, if we could finally just get the government to get together for even 5 seconds, just like a minute or two, just get together
Yeah.
and actually talk about this seriously instead of just making this a Democrat thing, a Republican thing, then we could actually come up with
Well,
real solutions.
let's not get too carried away. I mean, we as
Okay,
far
I
as
know.
like what.
It's so crazy. It's like, damn, this is just like a pipe dream. But it's just really, like, if you really think about it, it's like everyone is right in their own way. But if you just all put all this together, that makes so that how new normal is never really going to truly be normal. Because there's going to be people fighting against it. There's going to be people who are not respecting that they make it get worse. It's not going to get better anytime soon. Even with the vaccine, people, like, from what I've been hearing, most people say they're not going to take it.
Yeah,
And
which is even
I know a lot of
more
people are saying they
baffling,
refuse to take it.
and that's
I
even
know, like, it's
yeah, that's
crazy. Like,
even.
even, like, I don't even know at this point.
Well,
It's weird because everyone tries first like, we need a vaccine, we need a vaccine.
all right. Well, now it's here,
I don't
and
understand why they're upset though, because at the same time, even I'm looking at it.
yeah, like it's
like now it's here, but because now I'm
yeah.
just like Trump's a little too excited about this. I don't know how I feel anymore. Because if you're too excited about it, let me just because I've been hearing a lot of conflicting reports. Like, well, it has a lot of side effects. You know, because most vaccines take years and years to get together, but this vaccine was made under a year. So I know a lot of people are not trying to take it.
And see, well, I think that kind of shows how maybe full of crap some of these vaccines might be, and the problem is it kind of gives validity to the concern, to the conspiracy theory of vaccines, because now all of a sudden we have a vaccine in less than a year, which is more effective. It's like 90 something percent effective versus the flu shot, which is like 60% effective. But you came up with this vaccine. You came up with this vaccine in less than a year, and it's more effective, more reliable than the flu shot.
Exactly. And that's why I say, like, I don't want to tell people don't take the vaccine, because at the same time, I just think that we need to ask a little more questions, because it's either in some way somebody's lying, because either vaccines take years to make to be good or they don't. Somebody, regardless, they've been lying to us in some way, shape, or form.
Because this was such a massive pandemic. This was such a worldwide lockdown thing that everybody jumped on board. It wasn't just a country. It wasn't just a state, not just a country, but the entire world. And so they were like, okay, well, we have a first now. Well, why is that? But there's so much stuff we don't have yet, but you got it like that. And it was like they were forced to be honest. They were forced to work hard, work quick. And even more so, like these COVID tests are free. So you're telling me COVID tests are free, but there's a shitload of other stuff that I got to pay for. But a whole COVID test.
That's why I think the whole test, that's why I say that the COVID has exposed a lot. Yeah. And it has made me see a lot of things. And that's one of the reasons why I consider myself, I would say I don't affiliate myself with any party. I don't affiliate myself with anybody, because when you really think about it, everybody's just lying. At this point, it's just whose lies can you stomach more?
Right.
Like, that's how I see it. Like, can you stomach their lies? Can you stomach these lies? At this point, everyone's lying, because it's just really crazy. But it's just, I just really hope that this vaccine, I just really am trying to think of this vaccine in a positive way, because I've always been not really a vaccine person. Like, I never actually got the flu shot because I've always kind of been scared of shots. I just hate needles. So I always avoided getting the flu shot. And now, like, most people they've always told me don't take the COVID vaccine because it's not safe. It's not safe. And I've been doing my own research, and I mean, I don't know. I think I really, if anything, I don't know if this is messed up. I kind of want to wait for other people to take it first, see what happens to them. And then I'm just like, if they still seem cool for a while, so I'll go get mine. But I don't want to be the first person to go get it. And then it turns out they made a mistake, and now I have like 3 eyes or something, you know? So I just like, let me just wait a little second. What happens to everybody else first, and then I'll see what happens to me. So that's how I feel about that. But I really think it just depends. It really just depends at this point. I have no real feelings about this at this point. I'm just watching.
Yeah, well, I mean, whenever the second it's available for me to take, I'm going to take it. I don't really have that many concerns about the vaccine itself. It's big pharma that I do, and clearly they've been lying, and possibly government. Yeah. You know, like we said, you know, all of a sudden you have a vaccine out in less than a year that's more effective than the frickin' flu shot. But oh, you know, vaccines take at least this, and you know, vaccines have to go through that. And yeah, like we said, I mean, this has exposed a lot of, now I don't, I lost you.
See me?
I see. I
Can you
see
hear
it.
me?
I can hear you. I see. I see your thumbnail, but I don't see your video.
Did I just turn it? No, I didn't just turn it off.
Let's see. Oh yeah, I think
But
you. There you go. You're back.
okay, yeah, I see you now.
But I mean, you know, I have no concerns about the vaccine. I'll be taking it pretty. The second it's available to me, I'll make sure I take it. Only because, you know, it's a matter of keeping my family safe. So if I take it, then I'm protected from it, and I won't have COVID-19 if I have the vaccine. And then I can go out and, you know, we all can start progressing, but
Yeah.
you know. But if there was one last point, one last bit of advice you want to put out there for what few subscribers and viewers I do have, but if there was one bit of advice, one last point you want to make, what would that be?
Let me see. I think that especially for people that are trying to come up in the journalism industry, like if you're in college right now or you're like currently in school trying to get into the industry, I would say definitely make those connections before you graduate. So don't wait until you graduate to start getting your resume together, start getting your portfolio together, start getting all that, making those connections with those different companies. Like I would say start that your sophomore, junior, senior year, start reaching out to companies, start making those networking connections. Like if you're a minority, try to like not just minority, if you're just try to see if you can join one of the journalism groups that they have. Like there's NABJ, there's NAHJ, there's I know there's one for LGBT, there's one for, you know, Asian people, there's one for like every type of group. So I would say join those, find a mentor, start getting ready for the job process before you graduate. Because I like when I was in school, one of the biggest things that used to drive me crazy is when like my classmates or people who I was in school with, you know, they would be seniors about to graduate. They never had an internship. They don't have a portfolio. They never participated in like a TV station, a newspaper, anything like that. But they said they wanted to be journalists because, you know, you can't, like I always tell people, you're not going to get a job without some type of experience, even if it's just working in your school news station or writing for your school newspaper. That is what helps you get into the industry, like just getting an internship, getting a job, just getting anything. So you need to try to at least one of those, like have writing experience, have TV, like you need to have those. Because even if you're somebody who wants to strictly work on the production side for TV, most of those jobs still require writing. And that is something that I know that a lot of people learn the hard way. I've seen it work. I was part of the production journalism. So in my major, we didn't do that much writing because I guess it wasn't really seen as necessary because it was production. But I've seen that for most jobs that like people like my friends or classmates have applied, they've asked for writing sample, they've asked for writing parts, they've asked for a lot of that. And a lot of these kids don't have it because they just assume that they would get their experience when they first started working, or they thought that their experience working, like writing that essay for English 101 or writing that essay for journalism 101 was good enough to get into that. So I would just say, seriously, it's never too late. You could be in your last year of college, your last semester, even if you just join the newspaper the last semester and you write like 2 or 3 stories, that is better than nothing because when you graduate, it's a very competitive field out here and the pandemic has made it even worse. So if you don't have even that basic groundwork to start, then it's going to be almost impossible to find a job. Like not even almost, like it's basically impossible to find a job without at least one sample production wise or written wise. So I guess that's the only real thing I would say.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. I graduated college in '05, film and TV production. Well, late '04. I graduated late '04 from Towson, film and TV. And I was lucky I think 5 months after graduation, I got a job at Discovery Channel in Silver Spring when the Discovery Channel headquarters used to be in Silver Spring.
Yeah.
But I made a number of connections. I worked on, I did a couple of internships during college, made a couple of connections and got my name around there a little bit. Now I was super lucky to get that job right out of college at Discovery Channel, but it wasn't until, a year or two at Discovery Channel, I started finding Production Hub. The website's Production Hub, Staff Me Up, Craigslist, Backstage, a bunch of other, sites that, are networking sites for filmmakers. Now you have Facebook and LinkedIn, which is even better. But we didn't have that when I first got my job at Discovery Channel. When I first graduated, we didn't have that. We barely had Yahoo or Google or anything like that. So it was like, okay, I might have to subscribe to the Hollywood Reporter or Variety and look in the back of those magazines for like castings or for like crew ups or whatever for sets or something. And but a couple of years into Discovery Channel, now there's all these websites. Fast forward to 2020, now there's apps. I mean, all these websites have freaking apps. You can just draw up a resume. You can start networking that way. LinkedIn's a great way. LinkedIn's probably one of the best ways to network right now. But it's like the kids now, they really need to take advantage, and they need to really push themselves hard on these apps, on these sites to network and get themselves out there. But the tools are there to make it easier so that they can focus on that craft. Like you said, it's that writing, or it's that editing, or if it's that graphics, or if it's, like if it's cameras or mics or whatever. But especially when it comes to journalism, when it comes to that writing, that is the craft that they really have to focus on. Because nowadays the tools are there. They have to stay on top of that networking, and they got to stay on top of that one or two crafts that they have to.
Yeah, because I know a lot of these places, they basically condensing people, like jobs that used to be like multiple people doing different aspects has become one person. So like even like as a multimedia journalist, you gotta know how to write, shoot, edit, film, all that.
Yeah.
And before you didn't have to know all that. So I always tell people you need to start acting like you're looking for a job now, because if you don't, then when you graduate, like I feel like I started doing like my LinkedIn, all that when I was a sophomore or junior in college, and I did internships and I did all that. And that has helped a lot, like with me at least getting interviews and everything. But I know people who never even did it once, and now they're stuck because they didn't do that one internship, they didn't do that one thing, and now they have no experience. 'Cause even the most basic entry, like PA, production assistant jobs, you have to have at least one internship experience.
And I
That's the
think
most basic jobs.
I think about a year or two ago, I was on Indeed, I think applying to a technical director or a studio director position for a news station. I think it was even part-time. And they said, you got to do this writing test on Indeed. I'm like, why? I'm applying for studio director. It was either studio director or technical director for a part-time position at the studio. So I might be switching the shots. I might be directing the anchors on stage, giving them cues. I have to do a writing test for that.
Yeah,
Like
I've done so many writing tests for jobs that didn't even have anything to do with writing, like for working as an assistant or doing all that, like some serious writing. So I thought you need, like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to join the newspaper because that's not what I want to do. I want to be entertainment. And I was like, that is fine. You can still do that. But at the end, no matter what job you take in this industry, the basis of this industry is writing. So no matter what, like production, even just being a camera person, you still need to know how to write to some capacity to be able to find a job. So it's just, I feel like I don't know how many, I feel like I preach that to the choir like as much as I can, but for some reason people don't really understand that this industry is not really an industry you can just half-ass. Like you have to like this is not that easy of an industry to break into, especially on air. So if you really want to get into the industry, you have to come with your best foot forward. You have to come with as much skills as you possibly can. So you need to start getting that networking, because you can be the most skilled person ever, but if you don't know anybody or you don't have not even one connection, you're not gonna get in. Because most, like my internships that I got, like all the bigger stuff I've done, like I'm not saying that I wasn't qualified for it, but what got me in was not just my credentials, but it was somebody who I knew who helped me apply, or who saw me and they recognized me and they said something to somebody who managed to fast forward my application and help me get into that space.
Mhm.
So I think it's just very important for people to really emphasize on how much networking and getting preparing for the job search before graduation, how much that's important. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be out here for 4, 5, 6 years, still not even being able to get a basic job, because because you didn't prepare yourself when you were supposed to prepare yourself.
Like, who's this guy? How do I know you? How do I know you can do this, that, and the other thing? A lot of people are fast tracking these things. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's a little different. Well, as far as acting goes, I mean, well, at this point now, I have a website and I have examples on both sides, production and acting. So I guess there's that, but it's like, well, yeah, but exactly. Yeah. It's like, if you know somebody, you've got a network. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah.
It's who you know.
Well, Donette, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your experiences, and I learned a lot, and I'm continually inspired by you and the guests that I have. So I'm always learning something new, and I can't thank you enough for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really had a great time.
Absolutely, man. Any links, plugs, socials, websites you want to put out there?
So my personal Instagram is Donnie Cherie, like DONNIECHERE, and that's also my Twitter username. And my podcast is called the Up to No Good podcast. You can listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcast, and the Instagram for that is the Up to No Good .pod. So I'll send you all the links to that when I'm done with this. But yeah, that's actually where you can find me, and definitely check it out. It's a podcast aimed for millennials, where we talk about subjects that I feel like affect our generation. The first episode we just put out, we just talked about blurs, which is Black nerds, and how being a nerd in the Black community is actually becoming more of a thing now. And we also have episodes on fashion, politics, all types of stuff, dating, everything. So definitely, if you're a millennial Gen Z person, definitely check my podcast out, and leave a comment and review.
Awesome. Yeah, well, she's going to send me those links. I'll plug those links in the description below. So check out Donette's stuff, and yeah. So again, can't thank you enough for coming on. To my viewers, I hope I've earned the privilege of your time and viewership. I know my guest has. And until next time, you know what to do.